Have you ever noticed this? You can talk to some people for an hour and feel lighter afterward. But with one certain person, 10 minutes is enough to drain you for the rest of the day. You didn't even have a real fight. Nobody yelled. Nothing obviously terrible happened. On the surface, it was just a normal conversation. And yet after the call ends, your chest feels tight. Your mind keeps spinning. You start wondering if you did something wrong. You even feel this urge to call back and explain yourself better. And then you sit there, staring into space, carrying a conversation that should have ended already. That's what I want to talk about today. Why do some people stay in our system long after they're gone? Why do they move on so easily while we're left replaying every word? A lot of people blame themselves first. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I said it wrong. Maybe I should have been more patient. Maybe I should have just let it go. But here's the thing. It's not always you. Some people don't really use conversation to connect. They use it to unload. They pour their stress, frustration, insecurity, and tension into whoever is willing to stay on the line. It can sound like advice. It can sound like concern. It can even sound like love. But somehow, instead of feeling understood, you feel tense. Instead of feeling closer, you feel smaller. That's why it's so exhausting. And once you see the pattern, a lot of things start making sense. One pattern is this. The conversation always bends back toward them. No matter what you bring up, it somehow becomes about their feelings. Their standards, their interpretation, their pain, their story. You say you're struggling, and they tell you about a time they had it worse. You say you felt hurt, and they start explaining why they were the one who was misunderstood. You carefully share your thoughts, and instead of hearing you, they start cross-examining your reaction. So yes, technically words are being exchanged, but there's no real space for your inner world. There's no soft landing for your feelings. And when a conversation gives you no place to rest, it wears you out. Another pattern is this strange need to keep explaining yourself. With healthy people, one honest sentence is often enough. With emotionally difficult people, nothing feels enough. You explain why you couldn't make it. You explain why that comment stung. You explain why you're overwhelmed. You explain why this matters to you. And then you explain your explanation. What's strange is that the more you explain, the less understood you often feel. Why? Because some people aren't listening to understand. They're listening to evaluate. They're waiting for a weak spot, a contradiction, a tone they can challenge, a sentence they can use to put the focus back on you. And this is where it gets draining. You stop feeling like someone in a conversation. You start feeling like a defendant in a courtroom. Your emotions become something you have to prove. Your pain becomes something you have to defend. And after a while, even your truth starts sounding uncertain to you. Then there's the part that hurts the most. The conversation ends, but your body doesn't get the memo. You've already hung up. You've already left the room. But inside, you're still standing there. Their tone, their pause, that little sigh, that one sentence they tossed out so casually, it keeps echoing. And what eats at you isn't just what they said. It's what happened to you while they were saying it. Why didn't I speak up? Why did I laugh it off again? Why did I freeze? Why did I let that slide? A lot of the pain doesn't come from the words alone. It comes from watching yourself disappear in real time. And if we're honest, that's often the deepest wound. Not just that someone hurt you, but that in front of them, you abandoned yourself again. Now listen carefully, because this part matters. That doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, it often means the opposite. People who get trapped in these dynamics are often thoughtful people, responsible people, people who care about relationships, people who don't want to hurt others, people who replay things because they actually have a conscience. If there's tension, they want to repair it. If someone seems upset, they want to smooth it over. If there's a misunderstanding, they want to clear it up. Good people often carry relationships like a personal responsibility. And that's exactly why they stay too long in places that keep draining them. Their kindness gets used against them. Not always intentionally, but still, it happens. Some people don't recognize gentleness as love. They recognize it as access. You give a little ground, and they don't think, wow, that was understanding. They think, good, I can push further. You explain with sincerity, and they don't think, this person is being honest. They think, this person is emotionally available for pressure. You stay calm to protect the peace, and they don't see emotional maturity. They just get used to you carrying more of the emotional weight. That's why some relationships don't fall apart because there's no love. They fall apart because there are no boundaries. So what do? Most people swing between two extremes. They either keep enduring it, telling themselves it's family, it's history, it's complicated, I should be the bigger person. Or they explode one day. Everything they've swallowed comes flying out at once. And then later comes the guilt. Neither path really frees you. If you only endure, you slowly disappear. If you only explode, you end up cleaning up emotional debris. What we actually need is something quieter. Something steadier. Not just the ability to leave a relationship, but the ability to stay in one without losing yourself. The first shift is this. Stop making understanding your main goal. This one change can save you so much pain. A lot of us keep going back into these conversations with one private hope. If I explain it clearly enough, maybe this time they'll get it. If I stay calm enough, maybe this time they'll hear me. If I say it the right way, maybe something will change. But some people can only give what they have. And when you keep asking them for what they don't have, you end up starving in front of a closed pantry. So the goal has to change. Instead of trying to be fully understood, try to get through the moment with the least damage to your peace. That sounds simple, but it changes everything. Now the purpose of the conversation isn't to open your whole heart. It's to protect your center. The next shift is to use fewer words. This is hard for good people. Because good people think clarity will save them. They think if I just explain it better, the tension will ease. But in certain relationships, more words don't bring more clarity. They just create more material to twist. A long explanation can be a bridge with a safe person. With the wrong person, it becomes a handle. So practice shorter truths. I can't do that today. That didn't sit right with me. I'm not ready to talk about this right now. I'll think about it and get back to you. Notice what's missing there. No over-explaining. No panic. No 10-paragraph defense of your own reality. You don't have to sound cold. You just don't have to sound apologetic for having limits. The longer your defense gets, the faster. The conversation stops being about your experience and starts becoming about their judgment of it. Another powerful shift is this. Don't rush to respond. Some people gain power by creating urgency. They push for an answer right now. They corner you with questions. Why would you say that? What do you mean by that? So you think I'm the problem? And when you feel rushed, you usually stop protecting yourself well. A rushed mind wants relief, not truth. So buy yourself time. Let me think about that. I don't want to keep going with this right now. We can talk later. I'm going to leave it here for today. That isn't rude. That isn't avoidance. That's emotional self-respect. Sometimes 5 calm seconds can save you 5 miserable hours. And what you do after the conversation matters just as much. Because this is where so many people walk right back into the same trap. The call is over, but they keep reliving it. They replay the words. They build imaginary rebuttals. They reopen the case in their own head. Was I too harsh? Were they right? Should I text them? Should I explain one more time? But most of that mental replay doesn't bring wisdom. It brings exhaustion. So when the conversation ends, let your body leave too. Drink some water. Open a window. Step outside. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice where the tension is sitting. Your jaw, your shoulders, your chest, your stomach. We often think emotional pain lives only in the mind. It doesn't. It settles in the body. So recovery has to be physical too. You have to remind your nervous system that the moment is over. That you are safe. That your entire day does not belong to that person. And now we get to the deeper truth. Why do certain people affect us so much? Not just because they're difficult. Sometimes it's because they touch an old fear inside us. The fear of being rejected. The fear of being seen as selfish. The fear of disappointing people. The fear of no longer being the good son, the good daughter, the good partner, the good person. That's why some comments hit harder than they should. They don't just touch the present. They wake up something older. So part of healing isn't only learning how to deal with difficult people. It's learning what inside you keeps getting activated. Why'd I become so anxious with this person? Why'd I over-explain around them? Why does their disappointment feel bigger than my own pain? Those questions matter. Because once you understand what gets triggered inside you, you stop being powerless in the same old way. That awareness doesn't erase the hurt, but it changes your relationship to it. Now you're not just drowning in pain. You're witnessing it. You're understanding it. You're holding it with clarity. And maybe that's what becoming stronger really is. Not becoming untouchable, not becoming cold, but becoming someone who knows what's happening inside them. While it's happening, I think one of the saddest things in life isn't being disliked. It's losing yourself while trying to keep the peace. You try so hard to understand them that your own feelings get pushed aside. Your own language starts to blur. Your standards shrink. You stop knowing what actually feels okay to you and what doesn't. You stop knowing what gives you energy and what quietly empties you out. And at that point, the relationship may still exist, but you are vanishing inside it. That's why keeping a relationship alive is not always a virtue. It's only a virtue if you are still alive inside it too. As life goes on, I think wisdom looks less like getting along with everyone, and more like knowing where you can still remain yourself. There is something deeply mature about refusing to abandon your own inner ground. When we're younger, having lots of connections can feel like abundance. But later in life, you realize real abundance isn't measured by how many people you can keep close. It's measured by how many relationships let you breathe. Closeness is not always kindness. Distance is not always cruelty. Sometimes distance is the most honest form of peace. And maybe words are more than words. Maybe they create space, or take space away. If someone's words always make you shrink, those words are not just carrying information. They are pushing you out of your own place. But when someone's words let you breathe, those words make room for your existence. That's what healthy connection really is. Not always saying the perfect thing. Not always agreeing, but not stealing each other's place in the room. And that means what we need most isn't always better communication skills. Sometimes what we need is the quiet courage to stop explaining ourselves where understanding was never being offered. Growing up doesn't just mean learning how to understand more people. It also means accepting that not everyone is capable of meeting you where you are. Some people will never really hear you. Some relationships will never become what you hoped they could be. Accepting that isn't bitterness. It's reality with compassion. And when you accept reality, you don't lose hope. You just move it. You stop putting all your hope in them changing. And you start putting your hope in becoming clearer, steadier, and less available for emotional harm. That shift changes everything. Because now the relationship is no longer your prison. It's just one part of your life that you know how to handle. And before we end, I want to leave you with this. If you've suffered in a relationship like this for a long time, it does not mean you were foolish. It probably means you took people seriously. It means you didn't give up easily. It means you cared. That is not something to be ashamed of. But now it's time to offer some of that same care to yourself. Ask yourself why this hurts so much. Notice where you collapse. Notice where you betray your own limits. Notice what kind of relationship weight you were never meant to carry alone. Because the real goal isn't just becoming someone who understands others. It's becoming someone who can finally protect their own peace too. So tonight, maybe hold on to just one sentence. You are not responsible for making every relationship feel good. You are responsible for not letting your heart be used up carelessly. Let that sink in for a second. Because in the end, dignity is not loud. It's quiet. It's the moment you stop handing your whole day, your whole body, and your whole self to someone who has not earned that kind of power. And maybe that's the real mark of maturity. Not that nothing hurts you anymore, but that you no longer abandon yourself just to keep someone else comfortable.